Hello and welcome to another Collector's Lot dedicated to a decade that had a revolutionary effect on this century, the 60s. A time when man first set foot on the moon. Beatlemania took the world by storm. Mary Quant designed the miniskirt and free love and flower power reigned supreme. Coming up on the programme, we'll be savouring that glorious day in 1966 when England won the World Cup. Going downtown with a Petula Clark collector and returning to Eel Pie Island, a happening place for music in the 60s. First though, a new face on the programme. Martin Beaumont tries a collection of shoes on for size.
You keep saying you got something for me.
They say if you remember the 60s, you weren't really there. I'm sorry, what was the question? In swinging London, gentlemen always used to let ladies onto the bus first, but I think that was something to do with the miniskirt, you know what I mean? Today I'm meeting a lady who has a collection of 60s shoes. Or am I meeting a lady with 60 shoes? Or is it a 60-year-old lady with no shoes? I can't remember, I was a child of the 60s.
These boots are gonna walk all over you.
Shoes, shoes, shoes. Imelda Marcus, eat your heart out. So Debbie, why 60 shoes?
I just think they're so different to anything else. For one, they're comfortable.
Yeah.
You get like the low heels, block heels, and like the colours. And
When did you start collecting them?
it probably started for me in the 80s.
So you started collecting 60s in the 80s?
It was more like the mod revival.
All right.
And that got me like interested, but I've probably been seriously collecting over about the past 5 to 6 years.
So where was the first pair you ever got?
It's got to be the suede, like the little moddy style ones.
So how many pairs have you got in all now?
I've got 112 pairs at the moment. I wear every single pair.
So how do you decide, well, in the mornings, you go, which pair do I wear? It's going to take you 4 hours to decide which one to put on, isn't it?
It's a case of, I'm very much into colour coordination, so I collect shoulder bags and handbags. I try and match them up with the shoes. It's quite difficult though, trying to get like all the matching.
What's your favourite pair of shoes?
It's got to be this pair here. Even though they're like black patent, it's just the shape of them, they're very chisel toe. Very dolly style shoe.
Where did you
small
get those
heel. These actually came from the States, and a friend of mine brought them over. So, and I was chuffed to bits when I see them.
What's so special about 60 shoes in general? What sort of styles did you get during that decade? Have they changed a lot from the beginning of the decade to the end of it?
I think they have. I mean, sometimes today you can get something similar. I think they never, certain lines, they're like a classic dolly shoe, which is like this, like the little strap across.
Oh, yes.
Every single pair that I've ever had is different, and I think it's nice to have like variety in colour and style.
Are you ready, Boots? Start walking.
So then, Debbie, what do you think?
Not bad, but I
bad.
think you need some different shoes.
Oh, thanks. You're a groovy chick. Go on, tell us a bit more about this lot then. Because this is a black and white period, is it? In the 60s, this?
Mary Quant tended to bring out a lot of like black and white, very sort of space age, 60s.
This seems very sort of Avenger-like, really, doesn't it? Them Peely booty. Are they hard to clean?
They are if you was going to buy sort of one black polish and one white. So I tend to buy like a patent glow so I can just spray them all over and just gloss them up.
And how long does it take you to do all these?
The whole collection, it normally takes me about 3 to 4 hours.
So do you think you'll ever stop collecting?
No, I doubt it very much. I go out every week looking for stuff. So hopefully I'll be wearing it when I'm in my 60s.
No football boots there, but the patriotic colours of 60s fashions were in tune with the English football fans on July the 30th, 1966. That was the day when England beat Germany 4-2 to win the World Cup. My next guest was there to witness football history being made.
Then with the crowd calling for time and the final whistle only seconds away, England get the ball upfield and Hurst goes through on his own.
What a cheer. I watched it on telly at home with my parents. I thought they were getting so excited they were going to burst a blood vessel. So what was it like for you actually there?
Oh, it was wonderful, but I think my abiding memory was the celebrations afterwards. I made my way back to Trafalgar Square, went into Griffin at Villiers Street, which is still there, and on into Trafalgar Square from there. Well, Christmas, New Year, everything all in one. The euphoria was just, well, unbelievable.
Fantastic.
Unbelievable.
And you've got your original ticket, the programme and the rosette there.
That's right. Well, initially, all I came away with from the tournament was with lots of happy memories, of course, with my rosette, ticket and programme. And subsequently, it's been built from there up to maybe 300, 400, 500 items now. I just don't know.
You've got loads of kit here. Are these original pieces?
They are, yes. They're the pride and joy of the collection, that being a final shirt associated with Roger Hunt, the German shirt associated with Uwe Seeler, who was the German captain on the day, a tracksuit top as worn by Bobby Moore, and one of Bobby Moore's shirts himself.
You've got so many souvenirs too. I mean, these all bring back marvellous memories. The original soap on the rope with the box, commemorative beers
right.
too. Lots of those must have been produced.
Yes, yes. I can remember it to this day. Walking into the pub there, and all the signposts up, and the glasses, and the beer itself. Sadly, to disappear, and very, very difficult to find these days. Only this weekend, I acquired that bottle of beer.
Is this a very expensive hobby? I mean, are you forking out hundreds, if not even more?
Yes, it's getting into the four figures, sadly, these days. As the years have gone by, it's got one of the most popular areas in collecting.
This flag, where did you get this from?
I was very fortunate in that out of the blue I had a telephone call from a gentleman who said his father was a chauffeur to one of the FIFA delegates at Wembley. And as a memento at the end of the tournament, the delegate gave this to his father. And luckily enough, 30 years later, I had the call, and now it's in my possession. Interesting
to see things like the stewards' armbands, also the press passes, all these things which, of course, normal members of the public wouldn't have been able to get a hold of. That's right, yeah. As of today, it's all very much the plastic. In those days, it was very much the material and the regimental look. Yeah, fascinating, fascinating. And World Cup Willie? World Cup Willie, yes. Mascot, wasn't he? He was the great mascot, yes. Everybody loved our Willie. He was everybody's pride and joy, and there is a song about him as well, in that Lonnie Donegan made a record, and one of the top sellers of the day. Yeah. Scrapbooks like these, were these your own? No, this is, again, I've acquired this subsequently from there in the markets on searching, and it's someone's pride and joy at that particular time, and I'm proud to own it and enjoy it. What about the things down on the table here? We've got all sorts of badges and what have you. It strikes me that this was perhaps the first match where commercialism was very much in evidence to satisfy the huge demand. We spoke of World Cup Willie, and he was the first mascot to be designated to a World Cup, and subsequently every nation has had its mascot, and along with the mascot came the commercialisation of the tournament, and, well, as it is today, mega money, mega money. Great to have so many autographs too, and of course the late Bobby Moore is included as well. Yeah, this has given me a great pleasure subsequently over the years, in that with the items I've had the pleasure of meeting all the players associated with the final, and many of those who were on the bench on the day, and they've been delighted to sign the bits and pieces that I've taken along. I wonder if we'll ever see a match quite like it in our lifetimes again. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Hopefully anyway. So, thanks very much for bringing it all in. And if you have a world-class sporting collection, I'd love to find out about it. Do write to me at the usual address, Collector's Lot, PO Box 17, Plympton, Devon, PL7 5YG. Now a trip to Eel Pie Island, the place in swinging London where groups like the Rolling Stones, the Yardbirds and the Who cut their musical teeth. Eel Pie Islander and clockwork radio inventor Trevor Bayliss went to relive the golden years of his youth.
This is Eel Pie Island in the Thames off the coast of Twickenham. It's a jazz club that meets in a hall attached to a pub.
I guess it was 45 years ago I first came here to Eel Pie Island in Twickenham. Do you know, I remember listening to the fantastic sounds from traditional jazz, you know, with the old euphonium and so on. I used to love this place. I used to stomp through the night here. I remember coming here one evening in 1962. I was listening to the most appalling noise, this new electric music. And I thought, I can't handle this. I love my traditional jazz, and I left. And as I was leaving, would you believe I had been listening to the Rolling Stones? Amazing.
Any Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday evening, winter and summer, they come. A rubber stamp for a ticket in the anteroom of paradise. The moving spirit is Arthur Chisnell, who runs the club.
I remember, in fact, coming over all those years ago when we used to have Rosie.
That's it,
In
yeah.
that-
And her sister.
And her
yeah,
sister,
yeah,
who used
yeah.
to be franking... no, they were...
They wanted fourpence. Tuppence for
It was
coming
tuppence on to the island,
and
tuppence
to
off.
go off, and we'll have it in advance.
Yeah,
That
so
was
I understand. Yeah, that's right. Now, when the thing it was in its heyday, it was positioned up near the island here somewhere. Now,
That's it.
that is, of course, now gone.
Yes.
But what is left over from those days?
Well, I suppose now all that's really left is the bits and pieces that people like you and I have kept, isn't it?
So you've got a
Really.
lot of archive material to show us?
Well, I hope so, yes. I mean, you know,
Oh, this is going to be
this is-
fun.
Well, Arthur, we're here at the Museum of Richmond. It's very exciting for me because I haven't seen all these artifacts before, and you actually contributed a great deal of the stuff that we see on the walls here today.
well, by no means all, but I mean, over the years, you know, one collected quite a bit of gear.
You know, it's amazing how many of those groups all those years ago actually made their, or cut their teeth on Eel Pie Island to actually, if you like, got away.
Yeah.
Can you remember, or just if you can recall, some of those famous names that weren't so famous then?
Well, I mean, there was basically a sort of a group of 200 to 300 musicians, and they used to make and remake them. And then out of that, I mean, came bands like the Yardbirds, the Stones, of course, everybody knows, the Who.
What does the island actually mean to you?
Well, apart from obviously a decade of very hard work, I think we put on record the whole of a change, a generation change.
It was a place perhaps where us youngsters could get away from mum and dad and the influence of perhaps others, like the church, where we could do our own decadent thing, or so we thought. We've forgotten, I think, that perhaps our parents were doing exactly the same some 20 years before.
You know, 200 yards away is Eel Pie Island, and here I am now at York House, going in now to see the Yardbirds again.
One at a time. I'm a man. I spell him. Hey.
What I always remember about the Eel Pie Island was the two little ladies who ran the bridge.
Cheap cider, high tides, mud on the corner of the dance floor.
We thought it would never end, and we tried desperately to keep it going. I mean, if there was something like that today...
But you couldn't miss. I make love to you, baby. You won't resist. I'm a man.
God blimey, Arthur, why on earth did you come into my life?
Just one of those things, isn't it? Let's go and have a cup of cocoa.
What a lovely idea. It's a lovely cup of
Let's get it right.
Oh dear, I think it was all a bit too much for them. A break's coming up, but stay tuned for part 2 when Lisa Goddard meets a man whose particular penchant is Petula Clark. And I'll be joined by a woman who lives and breathes the 1960s and has cupboards full of crockery from the era. Don't go away.
Another freshness sensation from Bold. Bold's bound to give you a buzz.
On June the 19th, we threw down the Kellogg's 2-week weight loss challenge to these volunteers to see if they could lose up to 6 pounds in 2 weeks. Now's the moment of truth.
You've lost 4 pounds. And that's 3.8 pounds. 5.4. feel brilliant. I just feel a better person.
I got into the kiln.
It certainly worked for our volunteers, and around the country, thousands of you registered to try the 2-week challenge and kickstart a healthy new lifestyle at home.
Step 1. Apply firm finger rotation pressure to the scalp. Step 2. Begin visualizing a beautiful, calming place. Step 3. Contact Nationwide now and discover some excellent mortgage rates. Relax. It's Nationwide.
This year, Garnier Ombre Solaire has taken its best protection and made it even better with Mexeril XL, filtering out more UV rays than ever before, plus better moisturizing and better textures. New Ombre Solaire, formulated and controlled by Laboratoire Garnier. No one makes the sun safer.
Welcome back to A Collector's Lot, which today is dedicated to the swinging 60s. You may recognise my next guest from our fashion special, which was on a few weeks ago. She's such a fan of everything to do with the 60s, we just couldn't resist having you back on, Jo, and you really look the part today.
Thank you.
It's great. We've charted your love of fashion, but it doesn't end there. How did you start collecting ceramics?
Well, it started when I bought a book from a charity shop called Getting Married 1965. This was a present for my parents' wedding anniversary, but they never actually got the book. I had to hang on to it.
And it's become your style Bible.
It has, absolutely. It's packed with fantastic adverts for beds and furniture, and of course the ceramics, which I principally collect.
Which is the make of china that you love the best?
It's Midwinter. This is the first piece that I actually acquired, since it was something that my parents bought at the time of their wedding. It actually dates from 1962 and was designed by David Queensbury and Roy Midwinter.
And do you actually use these pieces?
I try not to use the Midwinter now, no. I try to use some of the less collectible wares.
So what was so revolutionary about some of these shapes at the time?
Well, if you'll see there, we have examples from the Fashion Shape range. The design is more conservative than the shape, but the shape was actually brought in the mid-50s. It just so happened that in the early 60s, the public wanted more conservative, naturalistic designs. That one was designed by John Russell in 1962.
I love this fish plate here too, and that must have been an unusual shape too.
Yes, definitely. The coupe shape was something that was introduced as an innovation by Roy Midwinter following a trip to the United States, where he saw that people who bought pottery in America actually sprinkled their salt over the plate rather than put little piles on the rim as we did in England.
Where do you get most of these?
I tend to get most of my pottery from car boot sales, from charity shops. I get the occasional piece from a collector when I love it so much, but I like to feel that it has a history. There's somebody there who's been taking pride in their pottery for all of these years.
Have you seen prices go up?
Yes, phenomenally, particularly for the Midwinter. For example, this Focus coffee pot, designed by Barbara Brown in 1964, would have retailed at £4.15 shillings and sixpence in 1965. You'd have to pay rather a lot more now, probably about £50, I would think.
Really? And I like the salt and pepper here, this sort of pomegranate.
This is
design.
Carlton ware from the late 60s. When you put them together, it forms a sphere, very ingenious. You can see that all of the designs combine functionalism with just general stylishness, and it opens to reveal this wonderful psychedelic fruit.
This one sticks out as very different from the others.
Yes, this is European. It's from Germany. You can tell often European pots because they're much finer. They tend to have a preponderance of bone china used rather than the more robust earthenware of the English makes.
Do you enjoy collecting the glassware and the cutlery that goes with it?
Yes, and what I'd really love to acquire at the moment is a set of Midwinter stainless cutlery. It was only on the market for a couple of years and sadly didn't take off because they didn't display it properly in shops.
I noticed little ones like this, the sort of oil and vinegar bottle here. There's a kind of Spanish holiday influence there,
Yes, that's
isn't there?
right. Yes, I mean, everything was, the word was gay in the 60s. Bright colours and, you know, just a sense of fun, which I think is missing today.
I remember having one of these unbreakable mugs. I was at school and I was demonstrating it, smacked it against the wall and it shattered.
It's a shame. I mean, there was quite an aggressive advertising campaign for the melamine pots. They wanted the pottery makers like Midwinter Midwinter wanted the public to know that this was just as stylish as drinking and eating from the earthenware.
And this one, a special pot?
Yes, this is designed by Jessie Tate. It dates from 1966. It's called Persia. And as Midwinter's head designer, Jessie Tate is the most collectible of all the Midwinter designers.
Fantastic to see all of these. Many thanks for joining us, Jo.
Thank you.
Now, we've seen on the programme before that people's collections can take over their lives and sometimes cause more than the odd problem at home. We recently heard of a rather worrying case, so we asked Lisa Goddard to go along to see if she could help.
I've been sent down to Suffolk because we've received a letter from a concerned viewer. Apparently, her father